Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's Monday, Mafia Monday. Let's jump into our story. We've been going through my first novel, and I got 3 of them in this series, a series about the Los Angeles Syndicate, and we're just going to go scene by scene, all the way through all 3 novels. We're in chapter 3. Fix that. We're just about to start chapter 4. Let's start a new chapter. This is wonderful. Chapter 4. Made in LA. All 3 books are about the Los Angeles Mafia. There's enough about Chicago, New York. It's time for some LA mob stories. You know, we always talk about guns before we get started, and of course I got the snubby. I got other guns, but this is my favorite go-to. I carry this all the time, 38 Special. I keep it loaded. I'm ready to rock and roll. Here's a rule with concealed carry, with carrying a pistol. You don't pull it on anybody to flash it. You don't use it as muscle. You don't use it as a threat. You use it for murder. If you shoot somebody, you kill them. You don't shoot to wound them. And you don't pull your gun out unless you're going to shoot somebody. This is a rule. Let's jump into it. Chapter 4. I'm excited to start a new chapter. Let's see how far we get. Our main character, Simon Castro, is about to join the Mafia. I'll never forget Christmas, December 25th, 1975. Frank told me to dress up in my nicest suit and to meet out front of the Formosa Cafe in West Hollywood exactly at 7:30. At first I protested. I wanted to meet him at the holiday party we were going to so I could have my own car and leave whenever I wanted. But rules are rules. I was standing on the corner out front of the cafe a half hour early to make sure I didn't miss my ride. It was a clear and somewhat chilly evening for LA. A crisp breeze was blowing off the ocean up Santa Monica Boulevard and all the way up my thin suit pants. I was pacing around like I was on the sidelines during a winter NFL game. Frank was right on time for once. He had a man with him in the passenger seat, and I could tell before I stopped the car that they weren't joking around. So I kept my mouth shut as I jumped in the back seat. We drove up Mulholland Drive with a beautiful view of the city and the sunset behind us. We floated through the turns in my uncle's brand new Cadillac up the winding road. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if they were taking me to be whacked? I was gazing out of the window to the valley below, still stoned from the joint I'd smoked earlier out in front of the cafe. I said, "It's a great night, isn't it, fellas?" Nobody said a word back to me as we continued up the hill in silence. After a few minutes, Frank pulled over to the side of the road near Marilyn Monroe's old mansion. He adjusted his rearview mirror to see in the back seat and said, "From this point forward, Simon, you've got to be blindfolded." Richie Mott, my uncle's longtime underboss on the west side, was sitting in the passenger seat. He turned around and handed me the blindfold to wear, like I was a hostage or something. I laughed in his face as Richie was only 5'0". And I said, "I'm not putting that shit on. If you guys are going to do something to me, I'm going to have my fucking eyes open like a man." Richie looked over at my uncle and then looked back at me. And Richie replied, "Look, Simon, this is not a game. Put the stupid blindfold on and don't say another word until you're spoken to. I'm sorry, but this is the way it has to be." I looked at my uncle and said, "Frank, why can't you look at me in the eyes and shoot me yourself? Why are you having this little midget do it?" Frank looked at me and laughed with a demeanor that I recognized. He pulled away from the overlook, continuing up the steep and winding hill to our destination. Frank replied, "Simon, you and me are blood, right? Have I ever lied to you? Have I ever tried to hurt you once, ever in your life? Now stop being a dickhead. Put the fucking blindfold on like we want you to, before the boss's video cameras see you without it. This is a big night for the Castro family. Now put that blindfold on quickly before you get everybody in trouble. I nodded in agreement and put the stupid blindfold on, still expecting Richie to shoot me in the head. Within no time at all, I could feel the car turning into a driveway, slowing down, and then coming to a full stop. Frank rolled down his window and spoke in Italian to what I could only assume were guards at the gate. We continued up a steep hill, and then it flattened out. I could kind of see through the bottom of the bandana if I tilted my head back. But I didn't want to play too many games and piss Frank off. We finally parked the car. Richie leaned over the seat, taking the bandana off my head, and said, "This is the home of the Don of our family, Tomasino Bigota, or as the newspapers like to call him, Tommy Guns. He leads the family and is a longtime member of the Syndicate Board of Directors. There will be both made men here as well as a few company men who work for the top brass. So I don't think I have to tell you to be on your best behavior for the entire night. Simon, this means no cursing. You be respectful to everyone no matter what. And you don't act like a douchebag tough guy like that you normally do around the bar. This is the big leagues, kid." And that was offensive and hurt my feelings. But I gave a nod and kept my mouth shut. I felt like this was a big production to go through just for some silly Christmas party at the boss's house. The house itself was massive. A super mansion for a real-life supervillain. The place stretched across the hilltop like an Italian villa. It looked more like a massive luxury hotel than someone's home. All right, so let's stop here, and we'll pick up where we left off next Monday. Before we go, I want to say rest in peace to Richie Mott. This is a novel. Richie Mott's a real guy. He was a friend of mine, and he died of, heart failure. And I have a really interesting story about Richie, because I truly believe that he came to me in a dream the night that he died. So rest in peace, Richie. I'll never forget you as long as I live.